Hello, my name is Harzing and I'm a professor of international management, staff development lead and research mentor at Middlesex University Business School. This recording is part of a set of 6 which make up the preparation for Middlesex University Writing Bootcamp. Although we're open to papers targeted at any stage of development in the bootcamp and targeted at any journal, we focus in particular on writing for top journals that desk reject a large proportion of their submissions without even sending the paper out for reviews. Our aim is thus to ensure that your paper has the best possible chance of getting into the peer review process. The first session consists of an introduction to the bootcamp and the development of the publishing landscape. In the second session, we then explain how to craft a descriptive and memorable title. In the third session, we explain how to write polished abstracts that include all relevant information and guide the editor towards choosing the best possible reviewers for your paper. The fourth session deals with the introduction of the paper and explains its crucial role in positioning the paper in the scholarly landscape that you're trying to contribute to. Session 5 then deals with the concluding section of your paper and outlines how important it is to end on a high note. We also discuss the strategic role of referencing in this session. In the 6th and final session, we talk about the importance of writing a good letter to the editor, having your paper proofread, and about all the other little things you can do to give your paper the best possible chance of surviving the desk reject process. For those of you who are more visually oriented, here is an overview of the 6 sessions on just one slide. Third session, day 2, session 1, abstracts. As a general tip, many slides have a URL in the bottom part of the slide that you can look at for further information. This one is a blog post I wrote about last year's bootcamp. In this third bootcamp session, we'll learn how to write polished abstracts that include all the relevant information, but also guide the editor towards choosing the best possible reviewers for your paper. First, we'll look at what exactly needs to be included in a good abstract. Then I'll give you some examples of what I think are effective abstracts. And finally, we'll look at some ways you can improve your existing abstract. Now, the first thing to keep in mind is that nearly all journals have very strict word counts for the abstract. They're usually between 100 and 200 words, and many of them use online submission systems. So if you go even one word over, the submission will not be accepted. As I mentioned earlier, the abstract also guides the editorial decision on which reviewers to ask for your paper. So the abstracts need to include a number of key issues, and the issues in red are usually the ones that are used as pointers for which reviewers to ask. First of all, most abstracts include a little bit of research background, more general, that really outlines why this is an important topic to study. But this can be really short or implicit. Then you'll need to outline why this is a new topic, why this hasn't been studied before, and what you bring to the table. This again can be short and implicit. But what really needs to be there is your research topic or question, the theory you draw on if you use a particular theory, and the research methods you use. These 3 are key for the editor to decide which reviewers to select. Then, of course, you will need to give 1 or 2 sentences with the actual results in your paper and make sure that you actually give the content of the results, because I see many academics saying something like, we present our results and they confirm or contradict prior research. So the reader has no clue still what the paper is about. And then, and this is in particular important in papers in business and management, is the implications for theory and practice or policy. Again, the role of abstracts and what needs to be included in the abstracts differs quite substantially by discipline. In economics and finance, you often find that the abstract only includes the research topic, the theory sometimes, research methods and results, and you don't have as much research background, identification of the research gap or implications for theory and practice. So as with all of the other elements of the paper, look at your journal carefully and look at your example articles from the journal. This is an abstract for a journal, Journal of World Business, that has a very strict word count at 100 words. In this article, we looked at expatriates who are ethnically similar to the local employees in the country they are expatriated to. So, for example, Chinese Americans who are sent out to China. We were introducing a new concept, ethnic identity confirmation. So it was really important to make sure that the readers and reviewers knew about this concept from the beginning of the article. So we paid quite a lot of attention in explaining this. But first of all, we gave the background to this research topic, outlining that multinational corporations increasingly choose ethnically similar expatriates because they believe that they perform more effectively. Then we outlined the research gap in saying that there has been very, very little research so far to establish how both the expatriates and the host company employees perceive this shared ethnicity. Then we introduced the research topic as such and indicated what theory we drew on, that was identity theory, and we proposed a new concept named ethnic identity confirmation, which we defined in full in the abstract to ensure that the reviewers knew what the article was about and why it was new. And then we outlined the research methods and the results. We conducted 2 experiments, which is quite an unusual research method in business and management. And we showed that ethnic identity confirmation was related to perceptions of trustworthiness and knowledge sharing intention. We weren't even able to include implications for theory and practice because the abstract is really short in this particular journal, and we really needed to introduce this new concept. This is another abstract for the same journal, Journal of World Business. So again, 100 words, a real challenge to capture everything you need in 100 words. So here we had a paper which had a heavy data emphasis. So there wasn't a strong contribution to theory. The emphasis was purely on the exciting data set. So a very generic background, the importance of language differences in multinational corporation and establishing that this is really important. Then we identified the research topic and implicitly the gap, indicating that the article was the first to provide a large-scale overview of language competencies, policies and practices in multinational corporations. Even though earlier articles, usually based on qualitative interviews, had covered some of these topics, there hadn't been a single survey that had looked at a big set of subsidiaries. Then we outlined the method. It's survey-based, composed of data of more than 800 subsidiaries located in 13 different countries and headquarters located in 25 different countries. Again, the emphasis was very much on establishing that this was a really big and comprehensive data set. Then we outlined the results, of course, indicating that it allowed us to differentiate prior conceptual and case-based findings according to home, host country and corporate languages and develop managerial implications from this. And these managerial implications really differed according to the 4 country clusters that we identified. In the live part of the bootcamp, we'll work on actively improving your abstract. I will match you up with either a partner who is working in a similar research area or your bootcamp mentor, and you'll review each other's abstracts. What you can also do ahead of time or afterwards if you want is to find highly cited or key papers in your field of interest and have a close look at the abstract for ideas for good practice. And obviously you can do that with the example articles you've selected for your target journal as well. I suggest you also make a list of keywords that you think are crucial for the paper, and then make sure that these keywords either are included in the title or in the abstract, or both, obviously. And these keywords should include all of the key concepts in your paper, the method you're using in your paper, the level of analysis you're using in your paper, whether that's individual, diet, team, organizational, industry, country, world, whatever the level of analysis is. And also include the context of your paper, especially if that is a context that will be unusual for readers of that journal, or it's maybe even a key contribution of your paper. Then, once you have a good version of the abstract, which you think includes all the information that needs to be in there, it will often be slightly too long for the journal. But even if it isn't too long, I suggest you send your abstract to the gym. With that, I mean that you first of all cut the flabby fat, exclude all the waffle words that are really not needed. You tighten and tone, you make every word in the abstract count. You need to think about every single word. Does it really need to be there? Nearly every abstract can be improved by cutting words. And we all do this as academics. We clutter our writing with qualifiers, with irrelevant digressions. And this can be okay in the article itself, but to do this in the abstract is fatal, because the abstract needs to be crystal clear in communicating its message. If you want further inspiration for this, I highly recommend Nico's blog post that you will find reference at the bottom of this slide. It's a perfect post to help you improve your writing. Then some specifics that you might like to take into account. First of all, don't use abbreviations in your abstract, because people need to be very clear what everything in your abstract means. So if you use abbreviations, do that later in your article. Most journals also don't like you using references in the abstracts. If you look at abstracts, you will see that very few of them do include references. So do carefully check the journal that you're submitting to. And also, as a tip in terms of highlighting really your key contribution to the field, there's some words that are really good to use in this. And they're words like reframing, reinterpreting, reformulation, bridging two areas, shifting the focus, having profound implications. Although the last one you need to be careful, because you do not want to over claim your contribution. Now, if you're someone who prefers to read rather than listen to presentations like this, I've also written up this presentation in 8 blog posts as part of a series. So as you will see from the titles, they basically cover all of the steps that we also cover in this bootcamp. So if you look at the bottom part of this slide, you will see the URL of the first installment of this blog post. I hope you enjoyed listening to the recording of the 3rd session of the Writing Bootcamp. The next session, the 4th session, we will talk about writing your introduction, which is basically a mini version of your paper.